I'd give so hard. I'd give so hard.
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. Northwest Hall of Fame, entry number 4, E-Dog True Story, Rampage vs. Electroshock. I first met E-Dog sometime in the 80s when we were around 15 or 16 years old. I had just joined my first rap crew at Jason Lee, called Knights of the Turntable. The group consisted of MC Rampage, myself, Jeff Thomas, MC Most Chill, Jermaine Ryan, J-Dog, Chris Somerville, Chili C, and Peter Chase. I had just come back from being raised in Rockaway, NY, and was quite frankly, smelling my own piss. At least as far as it came to hip-hop. My first friend I've ever had in Tacoma, Ricky Bird the Rickberg, is the one who hooked me up with the Knights of the Turntable. However, that's another story for another time. I was set to battle some cat they called Michael Electroshock Johnson. I figured if this was just another Northwest cat, it should just be a stroll in the park. Back then, New York rappers had a false sense of superiority as being the standard when it came to rap. Anyway, I was at Peter Chase's house on Hilltop. For some strange reason, the crew was considering changing the name from Knights of the Turntable to something else. I don't quite remember why. Maybe it had to do with the popularity of Sir Mix-a-Lot, but I digress. I was at Peter's house with a long list of extremely whack name ideas for the crew. The names were really bad. I think one was U.F.R. for unidentified freestyle rappers. Peter was on the phone with MC Most Chill clowning me in the list. Outside, Michael Electroshock Johnson, E-Dog, at the time was riding down the street on a BMX bike holding a DJ turntable in the handlebars. When I met him, I tried to play it cool, but in the back of my mind, the fact that this kid even had that sort of professional equipment clued me in on just how serious this dude was about hip-hop. You gotta realize, in the 80s, hip-hop equipment was a little hard to come by. Particularly for a 16-year-old. To make a long story short, we met and set the battle for the following Monday to meet back at Peter's house. I spent the week writing and prepping to take this dude to war. The night before the battle, Mrs. Ryan, R.I.P., had spoken to my strict mother, Anastasia Armorer, R.I.P., to let me spend the night at Jermaine Ryan's, J-Dog's, house. When she said yes, I did a double backflip. My mom was very overprotective of me since we had no other family in this area. Me, Jog, Maurice Ryan, Mo Money and Tyrone would be up playing Nintendo, eating Captain Crunch and of course listening to music. Some of the best times of my life. J-Dog said he had an Electroshock demo and asked if I'd like to hear it. I said, yeah. Believing I would just hear some Northwest gibberish screaming into a cheap tape recorder, doing their best LL Cool J rendition. J-Dog put on the tape. It was 3 songs, Feeling It Hard, With My Sword, and I Love You. I couldn't believe my ears. The quality was on the level of grown famous rappers on the radio. The voice, the flow, the delivery. This cat's from up here? I kept playing the tape over and over. I literally could not stop myself from flipping over and over the tape. After 3 straight hours of playing Electroshock's tape over and over again with no break, literally driving J-Dog up the walls of his own basement. Let's just say he put an end to my Electroshock demo tape obsession. Permanently. When I got home, I told my mother about this Electroshock cat I was set to battle that I had arrogantly didn't even bother to vet, who was on the level of a professional LL Cool J. Don't get it twisted, Rampage was good. In fact, Rampage was damn good. But Rampage was battle rap, beating on lunch tables good. At the time, I had never even seen a studio. This dude was on another level and quite frankly, out of my league. Electroshock waited at Peter Chase's house on the war date waiting for me to show up. George Rampage Hoyta never did. Instead, later that day, I found out where Electroshock lived and showed up at his door. I let him know how amazing I thought he was. We became good childhood friends and have been so ever since. Yes, this is the only battle George Rampage Hoyta ever gracefully bowed out of without spitting a rhyme. E-Dog has an insane business mind, talent, and work ethic when it comes to hip-hop. At 16 he was calling up businesses to convince them to give us sponsorships for clothing. When I interviewed him, he said there was a time that he wasn't hungry. I thought to myself, what does that look like? Look, the man is $King talented. There is a reason Sir Mix-a-Lot took him in. There is a reason he is on the B-side of Sir Mix's Baby Got Back, one of the biggest rap hits in hip-hop history. There is a reason his first solo single Drop Top helped get a Grammy nod. I read a post of E-Dog's last week that seemed to express a certain frustration with a lack of support. That post gave me the idea to start the Surve I Notice Hip Hop Museum. Don't get it twisted, I am proud to induct my childhood friend into the Northwest Hall of Fame. I didn't see any Wikipedia story that could do this hip-hop prodigy justice, but in my small way of personal support, I am more than happy to write it. Northwest Hall of Fame. Entry number 4, E-Dog. Salute. Your true friend, George Rampage Hoyta. E-Dog, born as Michael Johnson, popped up on the national rap scene in 1993 with the single Drop Top, produced by Mix-a-Lot and Rick Rubin. The single came out just 1 year after Mix-a-Lot's No. 1 Billboard hit Baby Got Back. E-Dog has rapped on several Mix-a-Lot albums.
Y'all be bassin' DJ Freeze, MC Poochie P coming at you, cause you be bassin'. Hey you be bassin'. Your brother too, he be bassin'. Your sister too, she be bassin'. Your mama's through. One day when I was rapping on the corner K Street, just kicking it with my boss, creating jams to the beat. I see your hands in your pockets, you was trying to find some money, couldn't find a dime, I thought that was funny.
The Surve I Notice Hip Hop Museum. True story, Rampage meets OG Freeze 1989. A true classic right here. This one came out on vinyl when I was a freshman at Stadium High. The first record of Northwest Hall of Famer, entry number 10, Bishop OG Freeze. My homeboy Zane's sister had a house party on the hill for her birthday. Alex Ruff was the DJ, and OG Freeze was the MC. He rocked IT. During the break, Zane told Alex Ruff to let his homeboy Rampage rock the mic. I did one of my best battle raps at the time called Rated Exorcist. When OG Freeze got back on the set, he said, "Give it up for MC Rampage, he was alright." The whole next day at Stadium I was bragging, "Yo. MC Poochie P said my name on the mic." You must understand, this was high props for a 16-year-old. I don't know if Bishop OG Freeze remembers me, but I remember this track, and even today, it is still one of my favorites. Salute. George Rampage Hoyta.
Food for thought. This is a lesson to think about, nothing to sing about. Those who do without divine day, there's hungry, kids dying, sad moms crying, working hard trying to be the mom of a young one. While some living it up, she's wondering how come. No need for asking the food we laugh.
The Ramirez brothers. Jesse Step 2 Ramirez and Maurice Step 1 Ramirez. Along with me, George Rampage Hoyta, we form the Men of Class Posse. Bow down. The Stadium years were some of the best times of my life. I must admit that this is the hardest birthday I've ever had. I'll just leave it at that for now. I am grateful for the words my partner from the Men of Class Posse, Jesse Step 2 Ramirez, posted to me last year for my birthday. I pasted it to my desk and it's been there all year. It has kept me going through this dark time and I want to paste it here. Happy birthday Rampage. A person who never bowed down to the system, always fighting for others and the better of our people. And let's not forget one of the coldest MCs to bless the mic. Enjoy your day, Jesse Step 2 Ramirez. It is the most valuable possession that I own. I love you so much, brother. Godspeed Jesse Ramirez. The great and awesome Step 2. The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. Northwest Hall of Fame. Entry number 3, High Performance. And here comes another one. High Performance is a group in Tacoma that definitely earned their place in the Northwest Hall of Fame. Even though they are mainly known for their dance hits like, Do You Really Wanna Party? And It's Just Funky, mainly due to their explosive, fifth gear, high-performance stage shows. This track here, All Things Considered, is one of my favorite tracks by the Hall of Famers. It is also the song that inspired myself, and my old partner in crime Shaggy C, to create the song 3 Till Armageddon. To give you a small taste of how dynamic High Performance's stage shows were, it is said that they battled and defeated the legendary New York City Breakers in breakdance battle. High Performance is a legendary Northwest hip-hop group whose stage show has not been beaten or even matched even to this day. Salute, George Rampage Hoyta.
Shit. Another long day. I wonder what's gonna happen now. Well, let me see. Laying back, lounging, cooling on the couch, thinking of some girls, so I get my book out my pouch. Lisa, Marie, and Lashondra, let me see. I got a gang of pretty ladies, but I'm still lonely, and I'm calling up they house.
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. Criminal Nation, 6 down deep https://www. YouTube.com/watch. V equals 1 CJF3 cast. True story, another classic favorite. Even back in the 80s, King Wojak was the standard as far as Tacoma rappers. He was known as MC Def and was the frontman for the group Def City Rockers. Any battle rappers worth their salt stood in line and practiced to take this man on the mic, including our crew Knights of the Turntable. Not on no disrespect, but Wojak was considered the best. He later became the frontman for the legendary future Northwest Hip Hop Hall of Fame group Criminal Nation. When you check out this track, you will understand why this man is respected, and at times even feared as a battle rapper. King Wojak. All hail, George Rampage Hoyta. George Rampage Hoyta. In 1988, I wrote and composed a seriously controversial song that was an answer to Ice-T's Colors, called Colorblind. I performed it as a freshman in Stadium High School. I met Sam Caviezel, Beethoven, and we vibed. Beethoven and I redid the song at his home studio. His brother Mike Caviezel played the guitar on the track. The song Colorblind was an anti-gangbang song. At that time, the gang culture was being embraced by almost the whole black community in Washington. This major dissent from the crowd was one of my first steps as a black sheep of Tacoma. I believed then, as I believe now today, that Tacoma, particularly Hilltop, Tacoma, was much better before embracing this gangbang culture. I lost many friends, and maybe a lot of respect for this unpopular stance in my life, but oh well. If I was ever to go against my inner convictions for the sake of being down, the price would be my soul. In that sense, I toast myself. People may look at me differently, but that is simply because I am different. And seeing where this gang culture has led us for the past 40 years, I'm glad that come Judgment Day, that is one sin out of many that won't be on my record. Self-salute. George Rampage ex-armorer. Black Sheep of Tacoma. Road to E equals MC2. The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. Northwest Hall of Fame, entry number 9, LA Stone. Yep, another T-Town oldie, but goodie favorite. I must be brutally honest here, sometimes the G-rap / Nas complex flow, as dope as it is, just flats out gives me a headache. Sometimes, I'm not in the mood for too many words, rhymes, and mic tricks where the MC is swinging off of my chandelier by the end of the song. LA Stone's style is a refreshing change from this. His style is laid back and simple, yet cold and hood. Pour yourself a glass of Canadian whiskey, blaze an L, and bump this track. Tell me if you agree. Sometimes just that cold, chill vibe makes some of the best hip-hop. George Rampage Hoyda.
Did time for slanging crack. The police were jealous cause I was rich and black. Yaffled me up and they thought they was slick, but here's a little message, they can suck my dick. I was a roller and a hustler too. I'm not illiterate.
The Surve Notice Hip Hop Museum. True story, Rampage opens up for Young Crime Rialto Theater 1993. Another favorite Northwest classic. I purchased this cassette from the Mini Record Mart on K Street, now MLK, back in the early 90s. It is still a bumping guilty pleasure of mine to this day. Particularly, the second track, When I Was Slanged In. The cut hypes you up, but the best part is the fourth line of the song of the first verse. Here's a little message they can S. M. D. Ghetto Baby Weed and Young Crime. I remember being blowed with the homie, Zane, bumping that track and we'd be clowning just repeating that one line out of the blue. LOL. Anyway, I had the pleasure of opening up for Young Crime, LA Stone, Street Brothers, and the Clique at the Rialto Theater back in the early 90s. Shout out to my two beautiful Nubian lady dancers that did the show with me, Crystal Jordan and her homegirl Sherry. It was one of the high points of my career to open up for all these acts that had hot street LPs out. Listen to this with a 40-0Z. Not street eyes, it has to be Old English malt liquor if you can still buy it, blaze an L. And if not, here's a little message you can S. M. D. Salute, George Rampage Hoyda.
Serve notice. Loveless, Act 1. Angel Cake. She's a captivating creature, goddess-like features.
Loveless, Act 1, Surve Notice and Cameron Couch. Poetry. It's amazing how the love of a beautiful woman can inspire so much poetry and material. Loveless, Act 1, was written by me to Angelique Angel Cake Burke. It was produced by the Northwest Hall of Famer, entry number 13, Cameron Couch. It first appeared on his album Diary of an Addict. I loved writing and performing this track with him. Cameron Couch performed this track at TCC, back in the day, and the whole crowd yelled out, "Angel Cake." It was a highlight of my career. Salute, George Rampage Armorer. Went to school with this talented dude. Marcus Daniels is an author, rapper, and musician. If you're a Northwest hip-hop artist, you need this book in your collection. I bought mine at Amazon.com. You can get a hard copy or Kindle. Get yours today. George Rampage Hoyda.
Our students are high risk, but I feel like they're the best of the best. That they come from all the different schools, and what we get are all the artists, all the comedians, all the geniuses of various sorts. We get the independent students, the rebels, the individualistics, the social group. We just get a very interesting mixture. And one thing is that they're all poor, and poverty tends to drive them into our school. They're high risk, they're gang impacted, they're a challenge.
teacher, tell me how you did it. School me to this game and I'll publicly admit it. Wasn't for their wisdom, I'd probably be in prison. Almost millions of victims of this cold racist system. You've always remained truthful to your pupils. Labeled as geniuses when they said we had no scruples. Taught us that knowledge was the weapon that they can't confiscate, and the best defense against senseless morals of hate.
The making of Blood Oath, why Michelle Boucry is still relevant today. Part 1 of 5 November 11, 1998 Lakewood, WA, or more specifically, Ponders Corner, Lakewood. The hour was late, when I received a telephone call from one of my Urban League Academy teachers and dear friend, Lori Arnold. I could tell by her tone that this was not going to be pleasant news. "George, if you want to say goodbye to Michelle, you'd better do it now," said Lori. You could hear the heartbreak in her voice. The kind of crack of mournfulness of someone who was literally losing a lifetime best friend. "On my way," I said, grabbing my clothes from the floor, dressing as fast as I could while beckoning for my mother, Anastasia Armour, to drive me to Tacoma General Hospital, Unduli. Ms. Boucry was dying. A few days earlier, Lori Arnold had spoken to me about writing a song that would encourage folks to go through the process of donating bone marrow. Ms. Boucry needed a blood type match if she was going to beat the leukemia that she was battling. I was more than happy to do it. That is how I thought of the title Blood Oath. I was thinking of the process of donating what was inside of the body to help save someone extremely special. So, the original Blood Oath lyrics were more of an encouragement rap/poem to help raise awareness, particularly in the Black community, about the dire need of donating bone marrow to those in need. Sadly, the rap/poem that started out as a call for help, would become a tribute to an extraordinary woman who would pass away all too soon. To be continued in Part 2. The making of Blood Oath. Why Michelle Boucry is still relevant today. Part 2 of 5S. T-R-I-V-E. Ms. Boucry had passed away at Tacoma General Hospital on November 11, 1998. She was surrounded by friends and family. My mother sang to her while she was still on life support. The world had lost a great woman. Gone too soon. Lori Arnold told me that Michelle tried to make one last video for her students from her hospital bed. The video didn't work out. Ms. Boucry never knew that her goodbye video would never be seen. That's what gave me the idea to turn the rap/poem Blood Oath from a bone marrow awareness PSA, to a promise and tribute to this great woman. I rewrote the lyrics and contacted NC Griffith, the founder of Surve Television. To make a long story short, we got together and created this eulogy honoring Michelle Boucry that aired on local access television in Tacoma. This is the video spot here. However, this would not be the end of how far Blood Oath would go. To be continued in Part 3. The making of Blood Oath. Why Michelle Boucry is still relevant today. Part 3 of 5 The Northwest Dispatch newspaper. Pat Robinson, the chief editor of the Northwest Dispatch newspaper, a black-owned newspaper on Hilltop, that was founded by another great woman named Virginia Taylor, R.I.P., published the lyrics to Blood Oath in the Northwest Dispatch newspaper. The ad was seen by Melanie Cunningham of Y104.9 radio station in Tacoma. She reached out to me and invited me to do an interview on the air within a week. I accepted. I had one major problem though. My mother's car had broken down, and I was, how shall I say it? Broke as a joke. I mean, I didn't even have $2 to catch the bus to the radio station. Enter, Grand Funkiest Northwest Game. Explaining my situation to a homie, J-Dub, he introduced me to his rap group that he was in. They called themselves Grand Funkiest Northwest Game. The group consisted of 3 members, Royal One, Woods, and J-Dub the Hot Sauce. They had a home studio, but more importantly, they agreed that if they were included, I would have a ride to Y104.9. An alliance was formed. To be continued in Part 4. The making of Blood Oath. Why Michelle Boucry is still relevant today. Part 4 of 5 Royal One's home studio. At Royal One's home studio, we went through several old records searching for something that would fit as the sample for the rap/poem Blood Oath. J-Dub played a record from either the Temptations or the Four Tops. I can't remember which one exactly. However, when I heard it, I shouted. That's it. I added more lyrics to the first verse, and wrote the second verse, right there on the spot. J-Dub sang the original hook, which was later resung by my mother, Anastasia the Phoenix Armorer. R.I.P. We used a VHS copy of an old interview of Michelle Boucry for the intro and outro of the song. As an added touch, I used a written old Urban League homework assignment consisting of an essay using a list of C words that were given to us by one of the teachers. It is the Dear Mr. Duke letter that is the third verse of the song. That is why you hear so many C words, such as colloquial, concur, and concession, all in the same rant. The song now holds a new special meaning for me, due to the fact that not only does it honor Ms. Boucry, but my mother is singing on the track with me while I rap. Just as she sang to Ms. Boucry on her deathbed. I love you, Mom, and miss you terribly. After the track was recorded, I played the original for Lori Arnold. It brought her to tears. It brings me to tears too. Especially now, since my own mother has passed on too. To be concluded in Part 5. Blood Oath. Teacher. Teacher. Tell me how you did it. Schooled me to this game and I publicly admit it. Wasn't for your wisdom I'd probably be in prison amongst millions of victims of this cold racist system. You always remained truthful to your pupils, labeled us geniuses when they said we had no scruples, taught us that knowledge was the weapon that they can't confiscate and the best defense against senseless laws of hate. Strong black soldier in the struggle. Michelle Boucry. Kinda ironic you would pass away on Veterans Day. Your student troops will never be defeated. Of course we feel cheated, cause your leadership's needed. You'd say one life to live, kid, ain't no half-steppin'. Tell me why you had to die for me to learn this lesson? Unanswered questions. If I go to second guessing my skills, you and the Urban League have worked so hard to instill to this at-risk student that the cops want to kill. I sign my life on the line to make the dream be fulfilled. You turned fighters to writers, drug dealers to readers, night crawlers to scholars on the way to be doctors. Shock the town. Burden bearer for the students of the underground. Ain't no one that's gonna hold us down, my people. It's the world-renowned game Untamed, an Urban League who owe her the most guaranteed. We keep her name and dream alive on this coast, and that's a blood oath. That's a blood oath. I remember when we used to act a fool back in school. It was cool how you and Lori Arnold broke down the rules, taught self-respect and reality checks of this cold world, and how nothing will be given while we live in, and if we don't get our coats we'll be shiverin'. America don't care about the poor quivering children, gotta refuse to break. Damn, an excuse to make, learn to make sense. Don't bend over past mistakes, just set trends and make goals. Put your pockets on swole, let them ply. Haters know there's some game to be sold. So in case you didn't know why this lady's important, just come down to Urban League and ask for Dominic Fortune. I'll break it down in plain English. When my statement is finished, got some love, you can send it. Northwest Dispatch will print it. Now you got the option to deal with Top Gun. The spirit of Ms. Boucry's students will make the cops run with dollars for ammo. One false move and it's blammo, cause we may be at risk, but we damn sure ain't Sambo. We comin' through like we Rambo. Die Hard stars and commandos, straight GI Joe soldiers in a war against cobras. Miseducation to the at-risk youth is finally over, and in case you didn't know, these lyrics probably told you about the lady from Egypt. This here town owes the most, guaranteed to keep your name and dream alive on this coast, and that's a blood oath. That's a blood oath. George Rampage Hoyta A. K. A. Dollar Dominic Fortune. Game Untamed. Surve Notice. The Making of Blood Oath. Why Michelle Boucry is still relevant today. Part 5 of 5, End. Why 104.9 Interview. If you've made it this far, you can hear how this interview went down for yourself. I want to spend this last post speaking on why Michelle Boucry is still relevant today. I didn't write Blood Oath just so the lyrics would sound good. One of the biggest problems that we have today, especially here in America, is a culture of miseducation. Our schools are overcrowded, and our teachers are dreadfully underpaid. The mainstream educational system programs the poor to be slaves, servants, and serfs, while programming the wealthy to be oppressors with a false sense of entitlement and superiority. No one is born racist. It is something that is taught and learned, and is used as a tool to keep the poor constantly at each other's throats, while those in power rape the resources of the planet for their own greed and vanity. We need schools like the Urban League Academy at Evergreen State College Tacoma campus. Shout out to the great Maxine Mims, that have smaller size classes that teachers can nurture the natural God-given talent that all students of all races have within them. Teach students how to think. Don't just program minds with data to regurgitate and take orders like mindless robotic flunkies. If we don't solve the problem of miseducation now, we will destroy ourselves, and maybe even this planet fighting each other due to programming that has never served humanity as a whole. Yes, I am against white supremacy. However, when we do finally destroy it, we must be wise enough not to inherit this evil and return it, or try to replace it with another color. No black supremacy, no brown supremacy, no yellow supremacy, no red supremacy. No more. Just let evil die. The Urban League Academy may have saved my young life as a teenager. The nurturing of students to make them come alive mentally and spiritually when they can tap into the God-given gift inside of them can be shared with the world. It can finally put an end to racism, poverty, oppression, and the evils of the prison industrial complex. In short, the end of miseducation is the end of injustice and mental slavery. That is why justice is never given, only served. And that is why Michel Boukri is still relevant today. R.I.P. And George Rampage Hoyta. Blood Oath, Y104.9, Surve Notice and Grand Funk. Memorial to one of the most brilliant teachers of all time. We miss you, Michel Boukri. 08/15/49 to November 11, 1998. Surve Notice, Dominic Fortune. The Making of Blood Oath. Why Michel Boukri is still relevant today. Bonus. Just wanted to add a copy of the actual Urban League homework assignment used in the song Blood Oath. The third verse. Thanks for your support. R.I.P. Michel Boukri.